Hello, welcome back to Unyielding Voices. This is a Solidarity Uganda podcast where we are building power and resisting oppression. Today, we're going to talk about rapid response. Rapid response for activists, rapid response for movements. And with us, we have a rapid response officer who is a lawyer, and she has been working behind the curtains to make sure that activists are safe, activists are not worried when they go to the front line. So today we have the privilege of talking to her, just getting into her mind how it works, how the rapid response works, what it is, and why it's important for activists. Welcome to the podcast, Joan.
Very glad to be here, Merab. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you today. And just like Rita, I have been wanting to have you on the podcast like for a while. So I'm so happy that you made time for us today amidst your very stressful and busy schedule. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about rapid response. We're going to talk about the work that you do.
Okay.
And how you do it and why it is important. Yeah, so to begin, tell us about the rapid response. What is it?
Rapid response. I think just like the term states, it is supposed to be something that comes off rapidly and in time. So rapid response in our context, in the context of the work that we do, just basically refers to the strategic, again, response to urgent issues and matters, events, and usually what the situation under which rapid response comes in is where we have considering especially our political landscape, our social context. To be an activist in Uganda can be very challenging. So why do we have rapid response in place? It is just to come in because of the risks that again are involved. We have risks of arrests. I think today, for every activist, at the back of your mind, with every action that you organize, in everything that you do, you have it at the back of your mind that I could be arrested at any time. There's like constant surveillance. So why we have rapid response is that we need it to come in and it is a sort of a shell, something that comes and then just to resolve the situation or at least offer urgent support to these activists. Yeah. So I think that is the importance. And again, like I mentioned, it is very, very critical. It is very critical to have rapid response. And we've always encouraged that it shouldn't just be from our end, from like civil society organizations, even within the movements. We encourage that they have rapid response persons. Because in the instance that you have organized an action, what is your fallback? What have you put in place as a rescue mechanism?
Okay, yeah.
If people are arrested, do you have legal support? Are you in touch? Do you have those contacts? So I think it is premised on building allyships, having allies that you work with, because again, the needs are endless. From the moment, from the beginning of like you're organizing, you need those allies after the fact, and then like continuously. So that is why I think, to put it simply, rapid response just is supposed to come in such situations, like emergency situations.
Okay, yeah. Rapid response, like you're saying, it's us responding. It is allies responding. It is your family responding. It is your movement responding. So sometimes I think when we talk about rapid response, people tend to think it is designated for civil society organizations, for example. And that's like when people get to the streets or organize a nonviolent action, their plan is usually to call, to reach out to organizations. But rapid response, I believe, like you've said, it's more than just the civil society organizations. It is also us, the communities, it is the movements. And you've hinted about rapid response persons in the different chapters and movements. Can you elaborate more on that? Because I know that there are working groups, rapid response working groups that were established that are always actually established in chapters and in movements across the country. Can you tell us more about the working groups and what they do, like simply, really?
Yes, now the working groups that we have put in place, or that I could put it simply, we have encouraged that these movements come up with, have been set in place to, that just before, if there is an emergency situation, what are you going to do? Because Joan, who is at her workplace, who is at office, might not have the information in a timely manner. Whereas having someone within your movement that is going to make those calls, that is going to reach out, is going to ensure that the support that you need comes in a very, very timely manner. Because it is impossible for me to follow up with all the movements that we work with across the country. So why we have those working groups is basically to have a focal point, someone that is going to reach out via WhatsApp. We encourage Signal because of the safety that it offers to activists and basing on the nature of the work that is being done. So what a rapid response person or like the working group is tasked with is that even as you organize, it shouldn't be coming in as something that you remember at the last moment, that people have been arrested, and then you're like, oh, we need legal support. Maybe how are these guys going to...
It shouldn't be an afterthought.
Exactly, It shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be something that we have in the planning phase of our action. So as they organize, these rapid response persons inform us, maybe prior to the action, that we are going to have this. This is what we are going for. This is our intention. And there's this risk that people are going to be, say, maybe arrested, worst case scenario, or maybe injured during that action. Because again, like I said, we have we know just how our political landscape is, that our opponents, once they see something, an organized group, they see it usually as something that is a threat to them. It's going to pose a challenge. So what do? They repress them, right? So it might not just come through intimidation, because right before it might just be intimidation, surveillance. But like after, because now when you go to the street and you've organized an action, you might be arrested. So you're at police. So this is where the rapid response person comes in, the working group. They reach out and they're like, this is where they are being held, right? And then immediately we're like, what are their needs? Is there someone on ground? Have we done a needs assessment, right? Needs, usually the first thing is we need lawyers on ground, right? Because anything, we need to expedite the legal process, So if they're at police, can we get bond so that they don't have to get remanded, So how fast can the lawyers get there? So the whole point of having this is to ensure, again, that we are able to intercept the situation before it gets worse. Also, another important thing to note is that rapid response helps us to sort of create a narrative. Again, we are intercepting, because if people are arrested, they're going to refer to them as maybe a rowdy group. These guys disorganized someone's business, they were in town and they caused a commotion. So what are we doing? Have we brought in media on ground? What are they doing? What is the narrative that we are putting out there? Why are these people on the street?
Yeah, I think that reinforces why rapid response is important, and not just as an afterthought, but as something that comes in the planning phase, while you're doing the strategic planning for whatever activities or actions that you are doing.
Exactly.
So, you've spoken about arrests, which is again very common because of the civic space that is really shrinking, and the commitment of those in power to actually suppress dissent and just silence people that are holding them accountable. That is very common. This is expected now, that when people go to the streets, there is a very high chance they will be arrested. But besides the lawyers that you've talked about, can you also share with us more about like what other kinds of support does the rapid response at Solidarity Uganda actually offer to activists and community organizers?
Yes. In addition to legal support, which, like I said, usually might be the first thing that we are going to consider, we know that these people it might not just end there, like what are their needs? welfare. In the instance that they might need food, like that is something that you might look at lightly. But then in that moment, I think for many activists, like from my interaction, even just seeing someone coming in to see you, that is like, it says so much. There's like, it shows solidarity.
You're not forgotten.
Yes, you're not forgotten. You're not alone. We see you, So it's not just about having legal support, but it is seeing faces that you recognize, people that have the same values, that share values with you, that see your cause and see that it is something that is meaningful and something that can have an impact. So rapid response will help us to sustain even these movements. Because if today an activist has been arrested, no one shows up, right? They're going to be like, oh, it means that these people are not interested in my cause. Like, what am I losing with this time that I'm spending in prison or at police? Because we've had instances where someone spends over 3 months on remand.
Yeah.
So just being able to go and see them, offer moral support. I think even more than anything, even more than material things, just seeing someone that is going to stand with you. So that is just one of the things that rapid response does. And then another thing that we take note of again is the fact that there's always a risk that people are going to be brutalized. They might be beaten up, they might be injured, So what do we do? What can we offer them? Again, I mentioned allyship earlier on. So we have partners that we work with, again, that are going to offer that medical support. Now, sometimes the torture or the abuse that someone goes through might not just be physical. It might not be just something that is visible. There's a lot, like there's a mental toll that it takes on anyone, to just be doing something. Maybe I would give an example of, again, some community that we've worked with where they're having like land issues, So when these people are constantly arrested because of maybe what is their right, not even maybe what their right is, they have the right to ownership of property. This is their land. It is their ancestral land. They have lived there for all these years, and today they are getting evicted out of that land.
Forcefully.
Exactly.
Illegally.
Exactly. So how does that affect them? So it's not just about the physical that can be seen. There's a lot of mental,
psychological
issues that are developed through this activism space rather. So what we do usually is to, again, coordinate psychosocial support for these activists, because that is something that we consider very important. Mental health is very crucial, even even for your physical state. So in addition to that, another thing that we've also attempted to cater for is, in the instance again that there's a lot of intimidation, where I mentioned surveillance earlier on. Activists are followed, maybe to where you live, So what security are we offering them in that instance? Can we move them to a secure location, at least temporarily, until things stabilize? So that is something that we also endeavor to extend to these activists. Yes.
That's really very important. And going back to rapid response working groups in the chapters and the communities, there is somewhere, I think, a published article which actually talks about a rapid response very well, on like the steps you can take when an incident happens. Like sometimes people don't know what to do. They're like, who do I call? Where do I go? What do I do first? And that write-up gives like a very clear like guidelines. It gives very clear guidelines of what to do when an incident happens. For example, if I were in my house and I realized that security operatives are breaking into my home, and maybe they're going to abduct me, because I mean that is happening all the time. Like we've seen so many activists and even civil society leaders being abducted from their homes. Like in that moment, what do you do? Like people keep asking, what would you do? What would you do? And the first thing that we always encourage is let someone know immediately. Like the moment you sense something, inform a trusted person in your movement or an ally. I think I hear people knocking on my door. I just looked and they look like, they are security operatives. Or even if you're being like really followed, like the people who have been following me, they look suspicious. So you have to be on alert and inform before it happens, even as it happens, if possible. Make sure you inform someone. That's what we encourage. Make sure someone knows something is happening. So when it happens, usually phones get off because they are taken away.
Of course.
They have to check them. They have to take them away because they don't want you to also contact people to come and help you. So when you share that information before you're taken, it also helps your allies, your movement, your people to know what is happening. That, this person sent this message, and I actually think they have been taken.
Yes.
And so that's when now we are the rapid, that's the first step is, like you said, information. Yes. Share the information as soon as possible. And so when it happens, then the media that you talked about, people have to go on the media, social media. Sometimes the mainstream media may not be willing or may not be even as swift, as fast as social media is. And that's why we have to use social media even for rapid response. So-and-so has been taken. This person was here and we don't know where they've been taken. So by doing that, like you said, you're intercepting, like you're trying to minimize how much damage can be done to someone. Because when there is no information, when nobody knows where you are, anything can happen to you. And they might get away with it. When they get away with it even when people know, because that's such a brutal system that we have. But when they know that they are very mindful on what they can and what they cannot do. Right. So putting it up there is not just about making noise. Like some people term it like they're making so much noise. No, it's to protect someone. Yes. Even when someone is in jail, keep talking about them on social media, because it is like that is a shield. Like that is the kind of protection that you're putting around them, that we know they are in this prison and this is happening. So that putting up that information also is another step. And then, of course, you have to go to the allies like you shared. You have to reach out to legal, if they need legal. You have to reach out to whoever you think is needed at that point. So like if we skip this first step of sharing that information, it can slow down the process or even mislead the process, because then you don't know what you're working with. But having said that, of course, doesn't mean that we don't act even when you don't have the information. You still have to act, because that is why we exist as a rapid response team or department. So yeah, that's very important. I would like you to share like some of your experiences. Like, of course, you don't have to name names at all, but when you have done visits or we've been in activist circles, what have your experiences been? What are some of the biggest challenges, and even like the things that have happened even as you did this work with activists that made you feel like, we are doing the right thing, and this is good for the work that we are doing?
Yes. Before I answer that, let me just again emphasize the importance of communication. I like how you put it, how very critical it is, how very important it is. Because if we are not communicating, if we are not sharing information, what does that mean for us? It jeopardizes the whole cause, not just for the moment, but even the movement's existence, like later, So about some of my experiences, I think this has been very interesting so far. There are challenges that we face, I think, on a day-to-day, even interacting with activists, even as a rapid response person. Again, you always have the fear. Again, it exists naturally, that I might go to rescue these people.
And I'll end up just in there.
Exactly. But that is something that should not be at the back of your mind. It might be, but in that moment, what you're concerned with is just rescuing.
You can't let it paralyze you.
Yes, you cannot let it paralyze you. You have to be you have to be there, you know. So I think that regardless of the challenges that we face on a day-to-day, in the work that we do, like you just accept it and look at what the bigger picture is. What are you looking forward to? If this is an action or something that people are working towards to, like long term, what is it going to bring? So when you think about that, it sort of just gives you the courage, you know, to just go on, regardless of like those things.
Yeah.
But again, one other important aspect that we've been able to establish as Solidarity Uganda, I think, is to just create trust, build trust with the activists that we work with, you know, because if that is out of the picture, it means someone is not going to feel comfortable to reach out to Joan, you know, with certain information.
True.
You know, because naturally, and the activists usually are scared of infiltration. There are so many things. Your work, or maybe what you intend to do, might be compromised just because you have shared a certain detail, you know. So that just goes to show why it is very important to build trust. And another thing that is very, again, significant is to sort of show the communities that we work with that what you are doing is not just, I think the challenge that we have now is that sometimes, and that might lead to like community apathy, is that people might look at civil society organizations or just NGOs generally as people that are seeking to also further their interests, to be seen. So can the people that we are working for see it as if we're not self-seeking, as if we're not looking for visibility? You know, there are activists that I've gone to see, and I've almost made it a point to, it's not about me. Like, you must show that it is central to what these people are fighting for, what their cause is. So once you establish that kind of trust with them, and they have like this belief in your honesty that you're going to show up at each and every turn, and when necessary, like it's going to make it very easy for them to communicate, to reach out to you with any issue or challenge that they may be facing.
Yeah.
Yes. So building trust sort of, it bridges those gaps. Yes, and it makes the issues very...
I love that you brought up the issue of trust.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a big thing, because if I don't trust you, then I can't even reach out to you. And in an environment where there is a lot of co-optation, like we have so many people being co-opted because of different reasons, of course, because those in power need to sustain themselves, so they have to get as many people from this side to their side, but also because of the prevailing levels of unemployment. So people become opportunists because they want to survive. They need money to survive because they don't have jobs. And that's a problem that is in this country that is not really addressed by those that are supposed to address it. So to trust people in this work, not even just rapid response, really, to trust each other as movements is very important, because without trust, you can't achieve anything at all. Without trust, you will be in danger and no one will show up. And I also love that you highlighted how important it is to show up, like just showing up.
Yes.
And just people seeing you and knowing, okay, I'm not alone. Because it's one thing to, for example, send food and not show up. You know, people will get the food, but again, there is something deeper than the food. We need the food, yes, but we also need to see you. We need to speak with you, because, I mean, we are confined in a place. Sometimes these guys are in solitary, like they are not talking to anybody. So can you show up? Can they see you? Can they trust you by seeing you? And I think also showing up and them seeing you is building trust in itself. Yes. Like showing up, like you're not just like, oh yeah, we shall support you, but then you never really show up. But also when you talk about like even organizations being opportunists, like they are thriving on the activists who are genuinely doing this work. They care about their communities. And then there are organizations which want to milk that out of them. And I think that distorts the whole dynamic of trust. Like, how can we trust you when we feel like you are using us? I think this is also a call to like organizations.
Yes.
Like, can we be honest? Can we be authentic? Can we show up not because we want to publish on our
Yes.
social media that, hey, we were there.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes even the guys who are publishing these things didn't do anything at all.
Yeah.
Like they just are good with being there with the camera at the
Yes.
right time, in the right place. And that is eroding trust in the movements. Like they look at you, even you who is authentic, they think, they just are here
Right.
for their PR. They just want their
Exactly.
photos, and then they will go. And so they won't trust you. They won't tell you what they need because they feel like you're just there to take the photos. So I think it's also important for organizations, not just activists and organizers, but also organizations that support activists to actually show up authentically so that you can build that trust. We need that trust because if I don't trust you, I can't work with you in this space. Especially when I know that today we shall be together, speaking the same language, holding the same values, and the next day you're on the other side. We have seen these guys. Like, have you
Yeah.
seen how? I'll give an example of journalists. How journalists can be very vocal. They write, they do good reports and publish corrupt parliamentarians
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And then the next time, the guy is in parliament, he's the spokesperson, and you're like, what's happening? So there is that, like, there's a very thin line, and you're like, you have to build that trust. And the moment there is like a crack like this, it's over. And it's not just for us, it's also on the other end of the activists that they must show up authentically. They must resist the temptation of being opportunists, And it's very tempting, by the way. It's very tempting when you don't have a job, for example, or when you are struggling to survive because the system has designed it that way for you to keep focused on survival. Because when people are poor, they think about food, like, I want food, I need to get my kids to eat, I need to have a roof over my head. And it's very hard to convince them that this is connected, that there is an intersection between my lack of food and who is in power and how the politics of the country. It is very hard. So you understand why sometimes there are those opportunists, yeah? But then that's where we need to be very intentional about our values, about making sure we don't erode that trust that exists now. Yeah. I think there's a couple of episodes that we have talked about trust, that we have talked about like having values that are ingrained into our hearts, and seeing that they are what inform how we do, what we do, who we even ally with, and all that. So let's talk about alliances. You mentioned alliances a little bit, and what would you advise, like a movement that is growing, that is still building? Who do you think they should go for? What should they look out for when they are trying to build alliances with other movements, but also with individuals and maybe civil society?
Okay. I think as movements build or as they grow, it's very important to always align themselves with people that share their goals, their values, so that we avoid instances where tomorrow you're tearing each other apart online. Because then what does that do to your cause? What do you come off as? We've talked about opportunists. So we might have people that are interested in a cause simply because of the publicity it is going to offer them. What is in it for me? What do I get from like my involvement with this? So I think it is very important to sort of always have like roundtable discussions with the people that are interested in joining us and find out what their values are. And then maybe, again, it's also very important to always make sure that our organizing focuses on the people that are most affected.
Yes.
It should be grassroots movement building. if we are talking about an issue that is facing a certain community, why must we focus on people that are not going to be able to know how that situation affects them simply because they are popular, simply because they are known?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes. So I think it sort of defeats the purpose of what we want if we are getting people just because they are popular. It is very important to start organizing from grassroots levels. There we have people that who are affected taking on or being the face of what we are organizing about. Because if you turn an action or organizing into something that is individual, and I think that is like the biggest challenge that we are having.
Individualism.
Yes, there's a lot of fragmented. We have so many groups without coordination. I think it would be very good if there was some level of coordination. So everyone wants to be the face of something. This is mine. But you're saying something, the challenge that you're raising is something that is affecting a group of people, but it is now individual, you know. So what does that do again for the cause? That is now where we find that you are maybe fighting for people who whose land is being taken, who are being evicted from their land, but you've never interacted with the community that you're supposedly fighting for. Tomorrow, if they offer them compensation, they will take it, you know, without a thought, because they're like, this person is only doing this because of what they're getting out of it. This is what they're benefiting from it. This is what they're getting out of it. So they're going to take compensation and they're going to disassociate themselves from what you are doing, regardless of the fact that it might bring change, you know. So I think, again, another challenge is elitism, where we have the elite, people talking about issues. We could go on Twitter and then there's like a very long thread, there's like a long conversation about something. And the people that are affected
are not there. Yeah,
you know?
True.
So what kind of change are you looking to bring, to achieve? What makes you different from the people that you're criticizing if you're not involving the people that are affected in decision making, in choosing what path they want to take in the issues that affect them, you know? So I think there's just a need to change certain things. Recently, I had a conversation with a group of young people, and we're talking about how political parties in Uganda now are just, they're tribal mostly, where we have maybe NUP, and it is for Uganda, you know. We have, if you go to northern Uganda, UPC, Obotesa Nakena, they're going to vote him simply because what? He's our person, you know. So I think that is a challenge that we have. And with elections even coming in, it is something that we need to sort of remove ourselves from. And I think it starts from, like, again, underground. Like it has to start from the ground, you know. How do we sort of get rid of these ideologies, these narratives that have been created? That someone today is interested in politics and they're like, I will not be given a ticket, maybe because I don't belong to this tribe. Yes. So I think those sentiments are things that we have to get rid of as Ugandans. We need to look at our issues as though they are affecting us just simply by virtue of being a Ugandan, and not just because of the tribe that I am from, you know. So I think that is also, again, shifting, not just to just the political parties, but also our movements. Yes. It's a challenge that we are having.
Very good. And I just also like that you brought out the principle of taking leadership from the most affected. And I think that's the point that most times people miss when they center themselves. You cannot advocate for people. They must advocate for themselves, because they know, they understand, they know where it pains and where it hurts. So it's very crucial to take leadership from the affected. And I think that's a principle that we embody even at Solidarity Uganda. We don't try to speak for people. We don't try to represent people. We work with communities. We don't work for them. We do not represent them, because we believe they understand what they want and what they need. They understand the change that they want to see in their communities, in this country. So we center people. We don't center ourselves. And even with movements, again, going back to how they are structured and like the leadership and everything around who is speaking, who is making the decisions. If you do not center the people, if you center, you make someone your, for example, you have like an activity, an action, and then there is the media, and then you're like, you speak good English. You speak good English. These people want someone who speaks English. You can speak, but you don't even understand the issues. Just because you happen to speak good English and you were somehow there, so you think you can represent the issues of these people that you think cannot represent themselves in the media. So we must center people. The struggles, the actions, whatever we do must be people-centered. It must come from them, not from us. Or so, and this goes for even organizations, really, because I think at Solidarity Uganda we've tried to embody that. Don't take center stage. Let people do what they believe is best. But we see a lot of this with so many people and organizations claiming to know me. I know the solution. For us, we are the solution of these problems. And it never works, really. It never works. Because if I'm not part of it, if I'm not included, then I look at it as a foreign idea, a foreign solution. But when it is coming from us, when it is coming from me as part of this group, I feel like I was part of the solution. Even when it backfires, we own the consequences. We own, the results. But when it is someone else, that one is the one who brought these ideas, and so they distance themselves from it, and they feel like it doesn't represent them fully. So yeah, that's a good point that you raised there. Now let's talk about you. How do you keep yourself grounded? Because it can be very mental, stressful. Because I have seen you try to, support activists, and I have also seen you in the middle of the heat. And I've always told you, I think every day, I'm like, I would never do your job. You're so calm, grounded. And in my mind, I'm always thinking, what does she do? How does she keep grounded like that? So how do you keep yourself grounded with everything flying, with fire everywhere? How do you keep yourself grounded?
I think it's very important to note the importance of having a calm in the storm. So I think I would like to think of myself as that if things are sort of breaking apart, what am I doing, or what do I represent for that situation? If there are issues like what impact am I going to make if I'm also all over the place? So the only thing that I know I can afford to do is to put myself together and just deal with that issue, the issue that is at hand, and then maybe think about it later, So I think that is how I have decided to go with it, to sort of deal with these situations, remove the emotional bit completely and just look at a solution. Because if I concentrate on that aspect, it means that there are people that are getting affected by that moment, So I know that I have to just sort of focus. What do we want? If we have people that have been arrested, what do we want? We want them to get released in the shortest time possible.
Yeah.
We do not want to see them languishing in prison, So I know to sort of separate that emotional aspect from and sort of seek for solutions, and then just deal with the rest later. Yes.
Yeah, I love that you say you deal with it later, because I also don't believe that you can just put it off, and because it can come back to bite.
Yeah, true.
It comes back to bite. So when you're feeling drained and burnt out, how do you ground yourself? What do you do to center yourself once again?
Just relax. Take a break. Yeah. Take a break. From all of it, because again, sometimes when you're in these situations, naturally you'd feel like, oh my God, what can I do? I need to pull my hair, it's very draining. It's very draining having people rely on you, and then sometimes even get frustrated to a point that what can I do for them? So it most definitely takes a toll on you. Yes. So I deal with it.
Okay. Yeah. I think we always also emphasize why it is important to take a break.
Yeah.
When you feel like I can't do this anymore. Yes. We always encourage, please take a break.
Yes.
And that's why we we kind of like want to create a system where if I take a break, the system won't break. You understand? And that's how it should be. Like, I have to be able to take a break. You have to be able to step back and say, right now, my mind needs to rest. I need to circle back. Like, I need to step away a little bit. And that is only possible if we actually, again, have in place systems. And it's not just even for, like, the role that you play in these movements. It's even with the movements. Like, sometimes we keep pushing. We feel like, if I step back, this thing is going to fail. And that is very problematic. It is a disaster when you start thinking that way, that without me, it will crumble. So we have to be able to, we have to build systems. We have to build movements that can still stand and thrive without us. That's when we shall know that we are successful. That even without me, it will thrive. Without me going to the front line, to the streets, everything will work out. Without me being available to pick my call immediately, someone else will be there to pick that call or to, you know. So it's important to have those systems in place and for us to be able to be comfortable to step back and know that for sure things will still go on smoothly. Yeah, so thank you very much for that. And I would like you to, give us your parting shots. What would you like to say to the audience? It could be even like you hinted on elections. It could be something to do with that, or just really how to, take risks, but take care as well.
Thank you, Mirab. Thank you for having me today. And I think as a parting shot, I would just sort of like to encourage our activists to always look at what the bigger picture is. And again, as you're sourcing people, as you're growing your movement, what kind of people are you aligning yourself with? So we should be able to build meaningful relationships, have allies that, again, have goals that share our values, because that is the only way that we can create resilience in our movements and sort of just have sustainable movements, not a movement that today might be having so much, might catch, and then tomorrow, like, what happened to this group? Where are they? So I think it's very important to just sort of always involve and engage ourselves with people that share our values.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's very important to build power. It's very important to build relationships. It's very important to ally with the right people. Like Joan has shared, we cannot achieve so much alone, but we can achieve big things that are even beyond our imagination if we work together, if we work with the right people. Thank you very much for tuning in today, and thank you for following us. Please do remember to share with your networks, share with your movement, share with your fellow activists, and let us build power together. Thank you very much. Until next time, bye.